Too many business owners get in the business and think I printed some pretty business cards and I put a sign up and now my door is going to be beaten down. Well, that's not the case. When you start off in business, you got to trade sweat equity for money, and as you grow, you trade money for time.
Everybody else was saying nobody's ever going to go back to offices again.
I went out and bought this huge office building, rented 75% of the building out before I even closed on it.
Never say it's slow. Business is never slow. You're always the most successful you've ever been.
You don't become efficient and then add more on your plate. You add more on your plate and then you figure it out. There's never going to be a perfect moment to start. The perfect moment is now.
So I called you the other day asking if you'd join me for a conversation. You're always the one asking the questions.
Sure.
So how does it feel being on the other side of the table?
It feels good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you get to be a guest on something versus the one hosting it?
This will probably be in less than a handful of times that I can think of.
How about that?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I appreciate the invite.
No, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. So the whole goal is to have just real conversations. You know, what I found was that so many times business owners, they're so resolute that they don't talk a lot about the struggles that they've gone through.
Yeah.
But then what that does is that causes business owners that are in the middle of the grind to really think like, man, everybody else has figured it out. I'm the only one that hasn't.
That's
so
right.
that's been the whole purpose of these conversations is just to really dive into the success, but also the times where hey, what did it take to get to it? So,
and that's so important because that's why a lot of people read books or do different things because you learn from others' mistakes so much faster than making them your own.
Yeah. If somebody else already did it, already broke something, figure it out from them before you do it yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we met, what was it, about 2.5 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
You remember that day?
It was a networking event. I think it was like a lunch networking event.
Yep.
And we were crammed into a room at a restaurant in Gulf Shores. And yeah, I do remember.
Yeah. I remember seeing you because you're everywhere. And I remember the Home Boss days and seeing the Home Boss vans all over the place before I even knew who you were. And then seeing you in every networking event. I remember that day, I was like, that's Tim. I need to go introduce myself to him. And I was surprised because you were super friendly. Like you were just ready to like have a conversation. And I remember being relatively new in the business, walking up being like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, that's right. Networking is such an important part of growing your business.
Yeah.
And when I first got started, I'd go into a networking event and my palms would be sweaty and I'd be nervous and I wasn't comfortable with public speaking. And I just had to, I realized running a business requires you to be in front of people all day, every day. And I started going to networking events and I actually got to the point where I enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Versus being terrified.
Yeah. Well, that's how you built your whole business. And I can't wait to get into that. There's a whole story. I've gotten to learn a little bit about you, but I think there's a whole backstory that I wonder how many people really know. So let's take them there.
Okay.
You want to?
Sure.
So let's jump back before Alabama.
Yep.
So Tim, before you were in politics, business owner, entrepreneur in real estate, who were you?
Sure. I was a general manager for a restaurant for about 12, 13 years.
Okay.
And that was my career. But let's go back even further than that. I was born on the island of Guam. My parents were military. So every 3 to 5 years, we would uproot and move to a whole new area. So I did learn skills growing up about coming to an area new and having to kind of restart friends, restart relationships, restart everything. So that was a valuable skill growing up. So when I turned about 12, we moved to Fort Belvoir, Virginia. My dad got a job in D.C., and we kind of got stuck in that area for a while. So that's where I ended up getting my first job at Roy Rogers, where I met my wife. And then that was when I got into the restaurant business. And the restaurant business will suck you in. It pays good, but it's long hours. It's hard work. So I learned a lot along the way, but it was hard to get out of it. So got up to the general manager's position. We worked in that for about 12, 15 years, like I said. And I finally got to the point they started training me for doing district operator, which is basically you take over about 8 restaurants, and you start running 8 restaurants through their general manager. And I started doing that training and realized this is not what I want to do. This is not the career path I want to go into or continue to be into. So we saved up some money, sold our home in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And with after all that was done, I think we had about $20,000 in our pocket. We filled up a U-Haul and moved down here to Alabama on a whim. And how that ended up happening was my grandfather lived here. He was a licensed electrician. He had his own business, and he had passed away the year before. So we kind of moved into his old house with a plan. Hey, we're going to move in there for probably 3 years. We had this 3-year plan lined up to build the business. Well, thankfully, it only took us about 6 months, and we moved out into a much bigger home. This was an older block home, not very conducive for 2 kids and a young family. So that's when we moved here. We started the home boss inspection, and it was been an amazing journey.
Wow.
For sure.
So you mentioned something that was really interesting about whenever you go to a new place, you've had to learn how just to mingle, get to know people, make friends. So is that
That's
something
right.
that came naturally, or was that something that you really had to build?
You know, I had to build it, and then so many years in Virginia, I kind of was rusty at it. So when I got here, one of the first things I did was join the South Baldwin Chamber and just started going to every single networking event I could. And that kind of started getting me back into the right rhythm.
Yeah. Your hands started sweating a little bit less.
Oh, yeah. The first one I can remember was a speed networking event at the old BB&T Bank. And there was about 40 people in there, and I was just sweating bullets.
And see, now you at least used to sponsor those, have your business cards and all that all over them. So you went from going to them nervous to then sponsoring them. That's incredible.
Yep.
So with the transition, leaving Virginia to Alabama, take me back to that time in your life, like the decision-making period of leaving that security of the restaurant business. You've been there. You know the money you can make.
That's right.
Uprooting your family, 2 young kids, a wife, you, and moving to a completely new area. So walk me through what was going through your mind at that time.
So before I made that decision, I started listening to books more. I got an audible.com description, and I started listening to 2 or 3 books a month because I had these from Fredericksburg to Woodbridge. Even though it was only a 20 miles, it was a 45-minute to 3-hour drive, depending on what was going on in that part of the world. So I started listening to audiobooks and gaining a lot of different perspectives, and that probably accelerated my advancement, or at least being more comfortable with making those kind of decisions because I was more informed of what was going on. So I was really tired of the restaurant business, and I started thinking, what would be an ideal job for me? If I could have a perfect job or an ideal job, what would it be? And the answer that came back was being a property investor, invested in real estate. I always wanted to do it, buy multiple locations, but I'd never had the means or the skills to do it. So I started taking these home inspection courses through AHIT and learning about the home inspection field in a way to use that as a property investor so I could go into properties and see what's wrong with them. And then the idea of starting Home Boss came up. We were on a walk with our dog. We were walking our Labrador around. And that particular time, I remember there was the cicadas were out. You ever see the cicadas out making that loud noise? Yep. My dog was trying to eat them and everything. And I kept thinking of different names for this home inspection company. And at one point during that walk, it just dawned on me as Home Boss. Wow. And it felt like that moment. And there's times in your life where you're doing the right thing, and it's almost like subconscious because you know you're moving in the right direction. So you don't put as much maybe thought into it. You just kind of it drives you versus you driving it. So that's what really happened. We started training for this Home Boss thing. We started building the brand slowly. Logo, name. Before I even moved down here, I went onto Google My Voice and got a local phone number and started building my Google My Business thing. And I was doing all this from books and research online. And when I got down here, got licensed in Alabama and just started hitting the ground running. But I tell you, coming down with $20,000 in your pocket and going, okay, I only got 3 or 6 months before I have to make this work or not really put a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Have you always had that entrepreneurial drive, or is that something that you started to form in those years?
So I did. And when I was 20 years old, I started a business called Clean Slate Power Washing. So I was out there, I was working in the restaurant business. Then from midnight till 3 or 4 in the morning, I would go out and pressure wash commercial properties. So I had this dream of starting a business, and I did. And it started to work out pretty well. And then my son was born, and I got an opportunity to take on a higher position in another restaurant. So I took my dream and I kind of put on the shelf and said, hey, I'm going to pause it because I have this opportunity for insurance. There's stable money coming in. It just felt like the safe decision to make. Was it the right decision? Probably not. But at the time, it felt like the right decision.
Wow. So 20 years old, you start a pressure washing company. You're working all day, pressure washing all night.
Yep.
So that drive had been there.
Yep.
And then your son comes, and now it's the decision of put some of that on the shelf for security.
That's right.
Was that going through that period, going into the secure job, the money, that routine, where did that entrepreneurial drive go? Was it always eating at you, or did you have to kind of suppress it?
Being a general manager of a restaurant, some of it came out through making other people money and making the restaurant successful. So, you kind of run promotionals, you run different things, and you get your employees and you drive them a certain way. So some of it came out in that way, but it always was an itch to start something again. But, it does. It's hard to have the time to do it when you have such a young family and that full-time job going on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's something about that drive, that leadership. So I'm curious, what do you think about leadership? Do you think it's something that anybody can do, or do you think that some people have that innate ability?
Yeah, not everybody can do it. You gotta have that ability to be able to talk to people, understand people, and lead people. Anybody can come in and be a boss and boss people around or tell people what to do, but are they going to be effective in the long run?
Yeah. And your heart is such to not just be involved in the community, but help people. And seeing how you join arms with young entrepreneurs, young businesses, and help grow them too, I can tell that's really a core of who you are. So that's pretty amazing.
I think, what drew me to the restaurant business is probably being a servant at heart. And that's what's kind of driven me in this, as well.
Yeah. So restaurant business, everything's going good. General manager, 12 years. And now it's, hey, we're ready for some change. So let's dive into that a little bit more, because I think that's a place where a lot of people end up is they know they're meant for more. They know they want more, but they don't know how to make that. So explain that itch that you started to get, kind of normalize that for people that may be experiencing those like, what do I do next, but not know what to do with it.
Yeah. So there's nothing better than knowing you are kind of in control of your destiny, but it's also kind of scary too. It's a double-edged sword. You write your own schedule, but then you have to follow a schedule. But I tell you, when I was first starting it out, it started with the idea. And then, we looked at name and then a logo. And then it all started like becoming real over time. And it was a real special time of building a brand. And it was the first brand I really ever built up from that point, but it felt really good, and it drove a lot of what I did. Yeah. It gave me a lot of energy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're in the moving truck, heading down to Alabama. You get to Alabama. What do you do? What does that first few weeks look like?
Yeah. So originally, I took my brother's camper. He was in Hawaii at the time. He's in the Marine Corps. So he left us with this camper. I took the camper and we bought a travel trailer behind it. So I remember we were in Georgia, I think it was, and it was just me. I was driving down first with all this stuff, and then I flew back home and then drove back with my wife in our 2 cars. So I was driving down, and it must have been 3 in the morning. And one of the freaking tires blew out in the camper, and I pulled into this rest area. Freaking guy starts knocking on my door asking for money. It was unbelievable, but it was a crazy start. We had to get somebody out there in the middle of the night to fix the tire up, and then I got here, stayed overnight in the camper, and then I flew back to Virginia to bring the family down. And that was a really hard. Not only for me, I had to be strong during it, but it was kind of, here I am uprooted my kids now after I've been uprooted so many times when I was a kid and moving to this new area, and all my wife's family was in Northern Virginia, and I'm kind of uprooting all that from there to come here to start something different. So there was a lot of emotions going on. It wasn't easy, but you had to be, I felt this force that it was the right decision to make, and there was something bigger telling me why, and we just had to be strong and get through it.
Wow. So the drive was there. You knew it was the right decision. So
That's right.
Flat tires, all the travel, all the flying, all the driving, it was all worth it.
Yeah.
So that you get here, the family's here, you're having to help them get used to a new area. You're getting used to a new area.
To school, everything.
Yeah. So Home Boss is a vision. It's an idea. The brand is starting to be real, but there's no revenue yet.
That's right.
So what did those steps look like? How did you go from brand new in the area, nobody knows who you are, nobody knows who Home Boss is, to getting that first client?
Sure. So I guess one of the advantages I had is a lot of home inspectors like to fly under the radar. And there was none at that time doing social media, advertising, Google My Business, any of that stuff. So I got my first client through Google My Business. I put on my Google My Business page. I worked on it. I spent an absorbent amount of time in my little office at home doing stuff online and putting little things out on the Google My Business page, and then also on my Facebook page, and finally nailed that first client. They called me. It was the longest inspection ever. They were there, but it was a really good first experience. And then I realized after joining the chamber and networking that I really need to get in front of real estate agents. So I made this goal of every Tuesday. Part of my business was I would go out and visit 10 new real estate offices. So I got my brochures, I got my flyers, and I was very methodical about it. I'd put 10 brochures in with my business cards in the front and then set them in the place so that way when I came back to check on them, I knew how many they were taking out.
Wow. You had a system.
Yeah.
I think there's some keyword in there with the systems. So before there was any money flowing, a lot of times entrepreneurs have this paralysis. They know what they're supposed to do, but they don't take action.
That's right.
Let's dive into that drive that you have and had at that time, overcoming the fear, the new area, the new everything, but you're driven to still get these things done. So, talk a little bit more about the late nights, the early mornings, everything that went into that season.
Sure. Yeah, there was a lot of early mornings, late nights, time spent working on the business and thinking about the business that probably took away from a lot of family time we could have had during that period. But I knew I didn't have a long time to build this business, or at least get it started enough. And one of my first goals was, hey, let's get to, 5 inspections a week, and that'll be enough to cover our bills. So let's get to that point first. And that's what really drove me to get out there and start just networking, getting in front of people. Yeah. And then the next big step was doing sales meetings at real estate offices.
I mean, $20,000 goes quick.
Yeah.
And you're looking at this balance that you come down here with. And I think you said it was 6 months to make it.
Yeah. You
had 3, maybe 6 months to make it work.
And I had I hate to say it, but a plan B in my head was, hey, there's some restaurants I could look at working at if this doesn't work. And I think that actually ended up motivating me even more to not go down that road.
Mm. So you looked at the restaurant and said, I could do it.
I could do it.
But you knew that you didn't want to.
I would have looked at that as a failure if I would have went in there and started working. And
Wow.
I knew if I did, I probably wouldn't have went back.
Wow. Because the allure, the ease that you would have fallen back into the restaurant life. I mean, we're in vacation town. There's a restaurant every 12 steps.
Oh, yeah.
So you could have been a general manager today.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not.
Yes.
You too?
Me too.
Yeah. So home inspections, $300 to $500 tickets, It's volume. You have to
That's
get
right.
volume.
That's
And usually you will have some repeat clients, but a lot of times that's one
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So, you're looking at, I need to get at least 5 of these a week.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I love that you set that as a goal. So you're looking at the 5 you need, and between Google Business, your marketing, your videos, and real estate, how long did it take to get to that where you had the 5 a week?
It probably took a few months. And what I did was each week on Monday, I would sit down and I would review certain analytics about my business. I think I had a list of about 10 things. It was like Google My Business, Facebook presence, website, and I would look at each week and figure out how I can improve each one each week. So whatever the 1 or 2 steps I could do to improve. And a book that helped me a lot during that time was, there's a book called The 12-Week Year, where it says if you can follow this book, you can get more done in 12 weeks than most people do a year.
Wow.
So I read that book and I listened to it over and over, and they have some PDFs and different things they have in there, and I really helped utilize that to put some systems in place to where I was looking at my business. I had my days for things. Monday, I would analyze my business. Tuesday, I would go out to all the real estate offices, Wednesday, whatever, and then get my inspections in.
Yeah. Are you normally that routine and structured? Is that part of who you are, or is that something you had to learn as well?
It's something I had to learn, but also some of that came along with being in a restaurant business for that long, or working for somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to keep things
Yeah.
buttoned up.
The hard part is self-motivated. That's where I think a lot of entrepreneurs lose it, is they have the ability, they all want the freedom of that, not working for somebody and have their own time. But then what I see a lot of them do is they're pushing stuff off to where I can do it tomorrow, I can do it next week, I can do it, whenever. And they prioritize things that are not important over top of that.
Yeah. Busy is different than productive.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, and with your journey, Home Boss led into a lot of other opportunities. So with Home Boss, I remember when we moved down here, seeing all the Home Boss trucks and vans, and knowing that really you moved down here 10 years ago, and all of this has happened in just 10 years. So, so let's talk about Home Boss. When did you see the rise of Home Boss and the success of that business starting to take off? And what did that look like?
Sure.
How long did it take? Kind of explain that a little bit.
So I think I hit my goal of 20. It was about 20 inspections a month was my initial goal to get to where I could pay bills. And then I brought on my first inspector. I said, all right, we're growing. I'm getting stretched out to where, maybe I can't pull as many inspections in a week, and you get to that limit as a solopreneur, so you got to add people to grow. So I added on my first inspector, and then this responsibility kicked in. Hey, not only do I got to feed my family, but I got to make sure I feed this person enough to survive as well.
Yep.
So it was a little rocky at first, and a lot of it depends on timing, especially in this area with real estate. But we sat down and we would do the same routine. And then I got this plan. I said, you know what? We need to do a huge event so everybody knows who we are. So we planned the Gulf Coast Real Estate Expo, we called it. The Gulf Coast Real Estate and Wealth Expo, I believe it was. And we on a whim, never doing this before, I had this vision of throwing this huge real estate expo, getting all these real estate agents in there, and then just promoting the heck out of Home Boss the whole time. So I went and put a deposit down on the Orange Beach Event Center for a date. We started working on vendors getting in there, as like setting up tables. And ultimately my goal was, if I can break even on this event, that's all I want to do. And I'll expedite my business. So we built up to it. We got our speakers in, got the event going, and it worked. We were there, and there's all these real estate agents everywhere right there. And that's all they were talking about, Home Boss, Home Boss, Home Boss the whole time. Like we were just this premium company out of nowhere that had always been there. And from that expo, we went from 20 inspections a month to over 72 a month. And it was overnight. Like literally that next week, our phone was blowing up. We had to put systems in place for online scheduling and different things because we just couldn't handle taking the calls.
I'm sure that was expensive.
Yes.
Renting the Orange Beach Event Center.
Yeah. I think the whole event, the first one, probably cost around $15,000, which was a lot of money. But fortunately, we brought in enough vendors to to at least break even on it. And that's what we did.
I mean, most small business owners wouldn't be thinking about throwing a $15,000 community event when they're trying to survive off of 20 inspections a month. They go
That's
into like desperation and like,
What can I save versus what can I spend?
Yeah. So with that, you have to be tolerant to risk. You have to take chances to make any moves. What are some ways that you worked through that, other than just being naturally, not risk averse? But what are some ways that you worked through that somebody else that might be on the edge of wanting to do something, but they're just really hesitant? How did you walk through it?
So first, it's important that you set big goals for yourself. So let's say your goal was $10,000 a month, right? Well, let's add a zero to that, and let's say now your goal is $100,000 a month. Is your mind going to think about how to get there a lot differently? So when you put yourself in these big goals, your mind starts thinking a lot differently about how I can get there. So if you say, hey, I want $1,000 a month and I'll be happy, or $10,000 a month, maybe there's a point where you're hitting that and then you pull back, right? So when you put those stretch goals out there, it really expands your thinking. Like if I had a goal of 30 inspections a month, I would have never put my neck on the line to go out there and do this big event at the Expo Center and get in front of all these real estate agents.
Yeah.
But it kind of stretched me out there to say, what can I do to get to that goal? And it makes you think a lot differently.
There's a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And it talks about these principles, how it's easier to 10X your goal or your plan than just doubling it.
Sure.
So what is the principle there? Because it seems like you've done that multiple times.
Yeah.
What's the principle there that you've lived by?
Yeah. So and at that point, I could have said, well, let me just go to every expo around and rent a booth, right? But I had this different mindset. I want to be the premium top sponsor. So, and they say it in real estate business too, you can sell a $100,000 house and you can sell $1 million house. It's going to take the same amount of effort, but it's not the same payout. So where do you want to be? Do you want to just be pushing paper? Do you want to be making big moves?
So how long into your move here was the expo?
It was, I want to say, about a year later. We moved here in 2016 and the expo was 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we did 3 expos and then we pulled back from that.
I saw a photo of you throwing money
off
of a lift.
Yes. So our 3rd year expo, I thought, how can we attract a bunch of people right at the beginning? So I said, we're going to do a $1,000 cash drop. So I called up 4 other business owners I know and said, hey, would you be in on this cash drop? You help sponsor it. All you got to do is bring $200 and $1 bills. That's it. So there'll be 5 of us, $200 and $1 bills, and we'll stand up there and we'll just do this big cash drop. So it was a gimmick to get people in. I heard something. It was in a book I read about somebody who did something similar in New York at one of the buildings there, and it just drew this massive crowd because of the interest. And I said, well, let me try that and see what can.
Did it work?
Can come. It worked. It was awesome.
So
there was tons of people out there, and then of course they're already there. They all came in and checked out the expo.
Wow. So that was the 3rd one.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the success. And I don't know this story, so help. I just found that I saw that picture the other day.
Yeah.
And here we are. So Expo 1 to Expo 2 and then to 3. What was the growth that you saw from the 3 of those in your business, but also at the expos themselves?
Sure. So the first one all in was $15,000. The second one, we brought in a speaker that cost us $12,000. So we were able to, we built off the first one. So we already have this list of vendors that are coming in. We got this list of people that visited the expo because we did it all through online. So I was actually through that as well as also capturing contacts and building my email list, which is another great benefit because we did a weekly email out to all the real estate agents. So we built on it. Then we started going, okay, first year was a success. We broke even. How can we build on that? All right. Instead of just having tables, what if we have a main sponsor table, a premium booth versus a regular booth, and different things to kind of maximize the money coming in.
Wow. So what were the things that you learned doing those expos?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but you can get a lot out of one event like that. It was amazing. So that's why, when the Coastal Alabama Business Chamber did their expo the first year, I was the premium sponsor.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do all the work. And when you start off in business, you got to trade sweat equity for money. And as you grow, you trade money for time.
Mm. Oh, that's all out really far outside the box thinking. To be a home inspector and to say, we're going to do an expo. Like most people would say, what's in my lane? They'd maybe run some Google ads, they'd do some video, but you were doing those things. You were doing the basics, but you were also thinking way outside the box. I mean, that's
I
wild.
remember the first expo, it was busy inside, and one of the older agents, successful agents in this area, he came up to me like, Tim, you got some freaking balls doing this thing, and it's working. Yeah. I'll never forget that moment. That was pretty cool.
Well, it wasn't for lack of competition down here. I mean, there's plenty of home inspectors.
Oh, yeah.
But the mindset was, like you mentioned, nobody was advertising, nobody was getting themselves out there. So it was free range.
Yeah. Yep. How do you stand out in the market?
Yeah. I remember seeing a lot of your Home Boss videos. I mean, you were shooting videos everywhere.
Oh, yeah. That was what it was. I mean, that's what it still is. Yeah. But back then it was really organic, and it was like all about videos. I did one video, my first video, if you go way back on there, it was pouring down rain, and I'm in my grandpa's old house, and I went up in the attic with my flashlight and the moisture meter, and I was doing this video, just nervous as heck, but it was crazy how much it blew up. And I probably could have advertised a little better because people were calling me thinking I was fixing roof leaks. But I was getting blown up from this video, and that's when it clicked to me. I was like, this works. Yeah. And it took me 5 minutes in an attic, and now I'm getting all these results from it.
When I'm talking to a lot of younger businesses, more often than not, I tell them, don't spend any money. You need to go do the basics first, shoot some videos, because they just want to run ads, they want to do all these things. But I think you have to build up to that. And it seems like you were doing all of the things that you could do yourself before you even looked to, you were a year in with the expo. I mean, so growth was exponential. Yep. But like in those early days, what does marketing look like in those first few years without spending that money?
Sure. It's throwing everything you can out there and seeing what sticks. So really analyzing, okay, what videos work. And I think we came to the point that as a home inspector, for me, educational videos worked. If I'm telling people how the process works, how to check things in your home, crazy situations, stuff like that, it worked. Mm-hmm. And you were in front of everybody. Nobody else was out there doing it. Yeah. So when they need time for a home inspection, here I am on Facebook. Here I am, sent you an email newsletter, and it's just more convenient.
Yeah. Were you getting home inspectors calling you being like, dude, what are you doing?
They're like, you're putting a target on your back.
Yeah. So Home Boss, it grows exponentially after that first, throughout that first year and then beyond. What was next?
Sure. So, we really looked at, I really looked at what I wanted to do. And it was that investment side, that property investment. That's what I got into it for in the first place. So in 2018, I bought my first investment property. It's a small condo office in Orange Beach. I still own it. And we moved Home Boss into it, one of the rooms. And then we started renting out each other room in the building to the point to where it not only broke even, but then it was cash flowing anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a month, at first. So that was kind of my first itch into the property investment. I loved it. And then it kind of took 2 years from there till I bought my next property. And I started, it was a crazy time, but I always feel like when people are running in this direction, you got to kind of go the other direction to make the best move. So during COVID, all that stuff going on with shutdowns and people not going to offices anymore, quote unquote, will never work in the office again. Everybody will work virtual. I went out and bought this huge office building. I got a great deal on it, but I bought this huge office building. With everybody thinking that, how am I going to fill this building up, right? So I felt like it was a good deal. I loved office space. And I tell you, that building, I ended up putting it online, and we rented 75% of the building out before I even closed on it, and it was cash flowing from day one. So somebody else has paid the mortgage payment on that building since day one, and then we slowly filled up the other open spaces, and I took the office upstairs.
Wow.
And from there, we just started buying more buildings. I think we're up to 10 now and over 70 tenants, and I enjoy that space.
So while everybody else was holding on to their cash, saying the world's ending, nobody's ever going to go back to offices again, you were swimming completely against the stream, buying commercial real estate.
Yeah, I'm like, how can I let these deals go?
Yeah. Wow.
So,
I mean, let's get into that moment, because the world was it was crazy around that time. I mean, nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what next month was going to bring. And so that market to have the foresight, was it foresight? I mean, what was it? If it was it foresight, or was it
just
chance?
this intuition, this gut feeling.
Wow.
That we were making the right move. And it ended up, a lot of our spaces were rented by people who could work remotely with their job, but couldn't work from home. Like they could, but like when they're home, they're not productive.
Yeah.
So that was a great part of it. But when COVID started, everybody was on lockdown. Well, the housing market took off, if you don't remember. And my business was crazy busy. I was out there working every day, 2 or 3 inspections a day out in this, scary environment or whatever it was. And I guess I just had a different perspective of what was going on and what was going to happen, And I've always prided myself in my business and in other things to kind of look at a lot of different factors and be able to make decisions based off of what I think may happen in the future.
Yeah. People say, sometimes people see somebody be successful and say, well, they're lucky.
Yeah.
And I've heard this saying that says luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
That's exactly right.
And if it wasn't for you taking the chance to come down from Virginia, start Home Boss with whatever, just the money that was in your account, a year later doing a $15,000 trade show, would those opportunities have even been there?
That's right. They wouldn't have. You got to, luck is also making your own luck and making your own opportunities happen. Yeah. Nobody's going to do it for you. Too many business owners get in the business and think I printed some pretty business cards and I put a sign up and now my door is going to be beaten down. Well, that's not the case. You got to go out there and you got to work for it.
It's amazing to see that somebody that comes from moving all around, lives in Virginia, works at a restaurant, now owns multiple businesses, has continued to grow year after year. And it's truly a success story. Yeah. And so what does that look like over these last few years? Because I know you've made some other pretty big significant changes. You've got, Home Boss was part of your journey, the commercial real estate, 10 buildings, 70 some tenants. We're sitting in one of them right now.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
One of my favorite offices.
Oh, I love this one. And you let me have it.
That's right.
And so all of this is growing and compounding. And then politics comes.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Sure. Let me jump into that. Let me pull back for 1 second and say, earlier I said, I think that giving up, putting my dream on a shelf for 10 years or 12 years was a mistake, right? So I learned a lot in those years, and I put a lot of effort into somebody else's business. And I feel like if I would have had some of that time back in my own business, the trajectory would have happened sooner, right? So I think that's important to mention, that would have happened a lot sooner. And now let's talk about politics. So when I was living in Virginia, I lived in there during a time when it turned from a red state to a blue state. And that was part of our motivation to get out of there. We saw the schools, we saw the culture, we saw the area just diminish, and the quality of amenities in the community, the schools, everything. So that was part of our decision to come here. So when I came from Virginia, I had 3 goals: to start my own business, spend more time with my family, and get involved with politics, because I saw how it can affect your community. So immediately when I came down here, we started Home Boss. I was able to spend more time with my family because every night I was home. In the restaurant business, sometimes you end up being that closing manager and they're open till 3 or 4 in the morning. Then you sleep all day and miss your family. And then third one was the politics. Well, it wasn't long after I was here. It was during 2016, during the Trump's first election. I was driving on 59 and I saw the Trump headquarters or the Republican headquarters. So I stopped in and said, hey, how can I volunteer? So I just started coming in and volunteering, helping them with, they were selling T-shirts and different things and hats and all that stuff. And then started getting involved with the party a lot more. I ended up going to a couple of their meetings. I think this is a crazy story, within 2 months or 3 months of me being here, I was appointed to be the secretary of the Baldwin County Republican Party. So here I am, 3 months here, just got appointed. I'm up there taking my notes, doing roll call and everything. And then the next meeting comes along and the secretary goes to the police station and picks up the keys for City Hall. So it's kind of a cool moment where I'm sitting in the police car or out of the police station. I'm in my car and I got the key for City Hall. I'm going, man, I've been here 3 months and I'm already making this traction with the Republican Party and kind of moving my goals forward. So that's kind of started the politic bug. So I've been around a lot of that in the Republican Party, serving, volunteering. I was on the executive committee as the secretary for, I want to say 6 years, 2 terms, and then now I'm on as the parliamentarian, and I'm also on the state executive committee for the Alabama GOP. And I looked at it as, first, this community was so good to me, how can I give back to it? And then also, how can I protect it from, outside things coming in and changing it to something that maybe we don't want it to change to? So I said, well, the first way I can be the most effective is right here on city council. It's a local job. I don't have to drive to Montgomery or travel to DC. I can still manage my business and run my business while I'm making effective changes right here in Foley and get a feel for the system, how it works, and then get a feel for what that looks like, potentially in the future, looking at different areas. Yeah. But I thought that was the most effective way I could serve the city, and I've enjoyed it so far. It's been great.
Most people, they have a hard time balancing one thing, but you were business owner, real estate investor. By the way, we haven't even mentioned state broker for your real estate company now.
Alabama state broker.
Absolutely. And politics. So and you're wearing it coolly.
Okay.
You are doing all these things,
mm-hmm.
keeping track of all these things. How do you do it?
So, like I said earlier with the big goals, when you have a lot on your plate, you become a lot more efficient. You don't become efficient and then add more on your plate. You add more on your plate and then you figure it out and you get more efficient. So the more I've added on, I always feel like it's important to have systems in place, files structured, things going back where they're supposed to go. If you go in my office, you probably think it's a mess, but I know where everything is at all times. I can walk in there and get right to work. And I've structured my computer files that way, my routines that way. And, the schedule is the biggest thing. Like you gotta follow your schedule. And I'll tell you, if it's not on my schedule, it's not happening because everything on there has got to happen. There's a reason. And when you do that, you end up prioritizing a lot more and you block your time from time robbers that are out there.
So everybody has the same hours in a day.
That's right.
And that's one of those things you see. It makes for a good social media saying, but it's so true. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's how effectively we're using that.
That's right.
So if you had to look at your schedule, again, with Alabama State Broker for Simply Home, your commercial real estate with Island Time offices, your city council and family and everything else that you're doing, the networking that you're doing, what are some of the keys that you would give to somebody to help them take that next step into taking on that next challenge?
Sure. So a full schedule is not necessarily a productive schedule. So you want to make sure you're prioritizing, and then feel free to, you got to be able to prune stuff off of there too. So not everything should be a priority forever. There's times where it gets to a point to where you've built it up enough to maybe you can come off of your schedule. I'll look at it and try to figure out, what does my day look like? What are things I can do to rearrange my day to make it more productive for me? Maybe I need to get up a little bit earlier this day. Maybe I need to change the time I go into the gym and work out. Maybe I need to change, my weekly meeting, whatever it is. So I'll look at it from a weekly perspective, then from a daily perspective, and really prioritize it. But then also, what are some things that can be combined? So what are some things that maybe coincide with each other? Maybe real estate and the investment properties, some of that can coincide with each other. So making that work as well.
That's incredible. So along this whole journey that you have, growing, seeing the successes, I know that it hasn't always been easy. So
No.
Looking at these 10 years, what are some of those moments that have made you pause and have to reflect and learn? What are some of the hardest lessons that you've learned over the last 10 years?
Sure. One was in the home inspection world. We always had a saying that said, no good deed goes unpunished. So there's times where you may go out of your way to we had an inspector that we brought on and we trained him all the way through, paid for his training, took the time to do it. And then the day he got his certificate, he was like, all right, peace out. I'm starting my own business. And I'm like, really? Like, you just came on for this whole time just to do that. So that was a hard lesson I learned. After that, we put in place non-competes. So it taught me a hard lesson that I needed to learn. That was, hey, we need to put in some non-competes and different things so we're not pouring out money, training, everything else, and then they're just gone from day one. We're not a free training program for home inspectors. Sorry. So that was definitely one of the hard lessons early on. Also is separating home, family life, and then business. That was very hard at first. My office was at home. It was easy for me to get in there and just start working on stuff. And then early on, obviously, it's on your mind 24/7. So that's where that's where I first fell in love with the office spaces, because I was able to get a nice office space in downtown Foley at some point and put a little bit of separation there between home and family, which helped out a lot.
Is there any time that you've, looking back, I'm sure it was all worth it, but in the moments, were there any times where you were going through something and you said, what am I doing?
Sure. I think a lot of the time you go through that at first. You go, what are you doing? And you just got to kind of snap yourself out of it, because you'll get rejection everywhere you go. You'll get rejection from real estate offices. You go in and, no, we got our inspector that we use, whatever it is. You'll get rejection from clients, different things. I know there's some agents out there, they'll get their report and they're mad because you found stuff, which shouldn't be, but fortunately it's the reality of the situation. So yeah, there was a lot of that out there where you're going in as an inspector and you're not the favorite part of the deal. Like, you're probably the worst part of the whole deal transaction, because you're the one that's going to either kill the deal or cause renegotiations or whatever it is. So that's why I had to be so overly positive on the other end.
And now you're on the other side,
being
a broker, dealing with the home inspectors.
That's right.
Have you had to get a taste of your own medicine on some of them?
Sure, yeah. And you want them to find everything, and then you just negotiate through it. And some things you can't negotiate through. It's the end of the deal. It is what it is.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen some things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Did you ever look back at the restaurant business and say, "Oh man, I wonder, that would be nice," or was it always forward?
No, it was always forward. And then every once in a while, I'd get this itch. So what I would do is I would volunteer at Shrimp Festival or Balloon Festival or something, and just be working the bar that night or whatever it is. And trust me, by the end of that evening, the itch was gone.
you were over it.
It was over it. Yeah.
You just had to get a little taste of it again and realize
taste of it. That's it.
You'd grown beyond it.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I've heard you talk about a lot is you attribute a lot of your your success to networking, your
Yeah.
involvement with the chambers.
Mhm.
I know South Baldwin Chamber is something that you've been heavily involved with since day one.
Yeah.
So for the local markets, let's talk about networking and what that's
Yeah.
done for you and how that has enabled you to grow like you have.
Networking is so important. And there's a saying I always like, it's your network is your net worth. And the more people you know, the more business you're going to get. That's just part of it. You know, and when we're kids, what did your parents always tell you? Don't talk to strangers, right? We grew up with this mentality, don't talk to strangers. Well, when you grow up, you need to go talk to strangers because they got the business you need. They got the money, you know. That's where the business is. So you got to get out to those events, and you should have some goals when you go to them. It's not just, hey, I went to a networking event. Have some goals. Okay, how many people are you going to meet? How many connections you can make? How many business cards are you going to get? Because too many people go to them, and then they just end up with the same clique of 3 or 4 people that they're comfortable with and really didn't accomplish the goal of going out to the networking event.
You know, and as busy as you are, you've always made time to network and to meet with people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you'll see people where they'll get to a level of success in their business and then suddenly they start becoming too busy to then help the
Sure.
next generation. But
Mm-hmm.
you have always had that hand out to help somebody and lift them up. So how do you do that?
Yeah, well, I find some satisfaction in it.
Yeah.
I enjoy the networking, but then also I enjoy seeing startup businesses, because I was there, grow and be successful.
Yeah.
So, you know, had I got that mentality, I may have never met you at that first networking event. We might not even be sitting at this table right
Yeah.
now. You know, so it's amazing to see your growth in that period of time and watch you grow through it. And it's awesome because as a business owner, you can learn from that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not everybody grows in the same ways.
Yeah. You know, those networking events they can be so overwhelming because
Yeah.
there's so many people, there's so
Mhm.
much going on. You don't want to feel cheesy walking in there and,
Yeah.
try selling yourself too much. So it's like this
Mhm.
weird balance. And unfortunately, there's a lot of times where you'll go in there and sometimes there can be a cold response from a lot of people.
Sure.
But you have always been that one that's always trying to help and trying to
Mhm.
lift somebody up and really meet them where they're at. And so I think that's amazing that
Yeah.
you've always made that a priority.
Yeah. And it can be, I mean, and it was for me at first, it was kind of nerve wracking. And I would go find somebody in the corner and talk and eat over there and all that stuff. And I realized, what am I doing? I'm here to network and meet people. But it can be a challenge for new business owners. And what I would tell them is the repetition builds the muscle memory, right? It's just like you go to the gym and you're building the muscle. Well, the more you do it, the more networking muscle you'll gain, right? You have these big, huge muscle, like biceps that are
That's right.
networking biceps or
That's
whatever.
right.
So in time, you know, the repetitiveness does it. So there's been so many people I've seen come in, and whatever business it is, even home inspection, they'll come in real estate, they'll come in and they'll hit the ground running hard, and then they'll just stop.
Yeah.
And it's the ones that persevere through that continue to grow and make the business.
Yeah. You see that in any business. You know, people they'll feel good about their market for a while. Competitors will move in and then they'll get nervous and then they pull back.
Sure.
I know I've seen it where people will start entering the market and you're looking around and then you realize you're just like, wait, I just have to outlast you a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yep.
I've seen you do that quite a bit.
Yeah, you just got to keep working through it. It
Yep.
can't be, you know, you got to outlast them.
Yeah. Nobody's going to work harder than you.
No, that's
Yeah.
right. I may be not the prettiest or smartest person, but I will outwork you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you know, if you have that drive that number one, it's also collaboration, right?
Mhm.
You want to be collaborative. You don't need to be competitive, but you know that you're just going to outwork anybody that could come.
That's right.
But also all the while helping people along
Yeah.
the way.
That's right.
But you know, it's that work ethic. So what are some of the things that, you know, you have a business owner, entrepreneur, somebody that wants to take those steps? What are some of those characteristics that when you see somebody, when you talk to them, what are some of those characteristics that kind of tell you, hey, this guy's got it, or this person has it?
Yeah, they're positive. They do what they say they're going to do, and they have good vision. They have a good idea of what they want to do.
Yeah.
And that vision really creates that drive and that focus.
So on the opposite side of that, what are some of those behaviors or characteristics that people tend to have that you would say, hey, these are the first things that you need to clean up and get rid of?
Sure, yeah. When you run into somebody and you ask them how their business is and they're complaining about it, or they're maybe complaining about the market or complaining about their customers or things like that, that's usually a good sign that they're just, they're looking at the wrong aspect of their business or the wrong things, And then, like I said, the reliability is a big part of it. If you say you're going to be somewhere or do something, that's what you should do. And you should stand behind it.
Yeah. I know you have the same mindset where I've talked to people and hey, how's business going? It's a little slow. And I'll tell them, like, hey, never say it's slow.
Yeah,
Business
right.
is never slow.
Mm-hmm.
You're always the most successful you've ever been. So what's some of your guidance in that, like to those business owners? Because that's a common thing you hear out there sometimes is, it's a little slow. It's a weird season, the market.
Yeah.
How do you get through that?
Well, you got to think, first you got to think, how does that sound to a potential customer? So everybody you're talking to is a potential customer. For me, I start thinking, well, why is it slow? Is it the market? Is it their marketing? Is it the job they're doing? It starts putting questions in other people's heads about where you're at with your business.
Yeah. Are they taking it seriously?
Are they taking it seriously?
You probably have there's probably a lot of people out there that are business owners that should be employees, and a lot of people that are employees that should be business owners.
That's right.
So what's the next step for somebody? They know that they are ready to take that leap. They know that they're ready to grow. You said you were reading books. What would you recommend to somebody?
I definitely think reading books is a big part of it. I just got Audible. I was listening to them at the gym, driving, whatever. You can fit them in. But I'd say if you got a dream, you got to jump for it. Like, too many people are waiting for the perfect stars to align and this to happen first and everything else. And it's never going to be perfect. There's never going to be a perfect moment to start. The perfect moment's now.
I think it's amazing. I can't even. That's a solid ending right there. I mean, it means a lot that you'd come have the conversation.
Absolutely.
and just talk about the business, what you've built, how you've built it, maintained it, and keeping a really healthy family relationship. Seeing your family unit, and how strong you all are. Your son working in the business with you, just seeing you all interacting while running multiple businesses. I mean, that's incredible. So
important.
I mean, how I think that's the most important is how do you keep the family unit strong as you're building your business?
I think part of what I learned is not bringing the business home. There's a home and then there's a business, but then also keeping everybody on the same page too, which maybe sound like it's contradictory, but it's not. But these are the goals and these are why I'm doing these things or what's happening. Because there's a lot of times where when you're starting off, you look super busy, but you're not bringing in much income. So you got to rationalize that.
Yeah. Knowing you and your wife, knowing that she backs you 100%, knowing that I'm fortunate to have the same thing where you have that, they're right behind you. They're driving you just as hard as you're driving, and they're celebrating your wins, celebrating your accomplishments. I mean, that's huge.
It is, and it's a big part of it. If you are an entrepreneur, your family's got to have your back, because if they don't, that's the first thing you're going to give up and go back to that safe haven. But when we had our first child, when we had our daughter Alicia, my wife stopped working, and I kind of took on bringing home the money, and then she took care of the house, and that was very important for us. And it's kind of been that way to where she keeps the house front all squared away. She does a little bit in the business, but we kind of keep those separate, and it's been great because I don't have to worry about, do I got to worry about my kids being picked up? Do I got to worry about this going on? Do I got to worry about some crazy babysitter, whatever it is?
Yeah. Your story is inspiring, to hear what you've built, what you've grown, and in a 10-year period, that's huge. It's out there. It's ready to be tackled. It's ready to be achieved. You just have to go for it.